Hey folks, Studio here, and for a very short amount of time I'm not going to be able to show my face. So until that's resolved, we'll have some stock footage. Should be no later than early next week when it will be fixed. But let's talk about why North America kinda sucks. We got wrecked at Worlds. We got destroyed. Our score at the end of the tournament so far, well, end of the day Saturday, is 1-7. One win, 7 losses. That is not good. That is not what we need to be at. And I want to talk about it. I just want to say why we're not doing very well, how we can improve, and just some other aspects I've heard people talk about that may not be why we're not doing so hot. But let's just talk about, okay, why do we suck? We do not look at the game in the right way. And it's very weird to say that. Like, how do we look at the game? Well, we look at it from a very just kind of mechanical standpoint. What are the teams composed of? 5 players, 5 very good players. What are the teams missing? A lot of strategy, a lot of just kind of general consensus on how they act, how they should be playing, and what they do. But I don't want to say the North American players suck. No, North American players are very good. There is no doubt about that. There is no doubt that all the pros at Worlds deserve to be there. But the problem is, it's not that the pros deserve to be there. It's the fact that the pros weren't playing cohesively. There wasn't this, solid plan that the teams had, this just solid idea of how they should be playing. And it showed. But let's just start with how we mess up. Okay, so how did the teams practice for Worlds? How did TSM, CLG, Dignitas all practice for Worlds? They scrimmed. They scrimmed a lot. They scrimmed against each other. CLG scrimmed against CLGU. TSM scrimmed against Dignitas a lot. When other teams were in the country and in different groups, teams scrimmed against them. Everybody was scrimming everybody. Just this great big scrimming orgy going around with teams playing each other. Awesome. Now, what did the teams really take from this? TSM actually got a strategy from Dignitas, the one that got leaked. And, well, not much. The teams all focus on mechanical skill. CLG apparently did develop some strategies that didn't work for Purple side, but in the end, we really didn't use the time for more than scrimming. So the players got better mechanically, yes. But did they get better in terms of strategy? Did they get better in terms of cohesion? At the end of the day, could TSM have this really solid battle plan with their picks and just say, alright, here's what we're going to do, and this should work in most circumstances, this should work against the teams we're going up against? Did they spend, hours a day for weeks, possibly a month, looking at the footage of teams they're going up against, reviewing it, saying, here's where they're good, here's where they're weak, here's what we can improve on? And this is a lot of work, I'm saying. This is a crap load of work. They have to scrim, hours a day. They have to review their games hours a day. They have to review enemies' footage hours a day. And why is so much effort involved for a game? Well, it's because there's a lot on the line. This is a profession at this point. This is no longer a casual hobby. And it can't be treated like one if the teams in North America want to do well at these international events. So far, if you look at how Moscow 5 practices, they play a lot. They play a lot as a team. There's no doubt about that. They enter lots of small tournaments, for example, and they'll have all 5 people there, trying to vie for $200, but it gives them a good chance to practice, try and get better at different aspects. I'm going to use Moscow 5 as an example because I think they're one of the best examples of how to make a team work. Now, they don't have a team house. Gosu Pepper doesn't live, he lives in a specific city just for college, and he's not going to move, so he's not going to live in a team house. But here's what their practice involved. Now, trying out new things and trying to get more cohesive as a team. This was really obvious in tournament streams because they would try out new strategies, of course, but we'd also see them try out different things. I remember one game I was watching at Moscow 5 just get better at turret diving. Like, they were going out of their way to set up turret dives, regardless of how awkward they would have been. So even if it was mildly weird, and kind of out of place, they'd still do it. And they would force it, and they'd see what works, what didn't work. And why was this? Well, this was back in April. Turret diving had 2v1 turret diving, 3v1 turret diving wasn't super popular at the early game in North America or Europe. So they were trying to develop their strategies. They were trying to move the game forward, stay up with the meta, and stay current. what do they do after these scrims? They talk. They talk a lot. They talk about what worked, what didn't work. This is something that we obviously don't see on stream, but they communicated their ideas to each other, and they just got better as a team. They played smart. Now, Moscow 5, they've got 5 of the greatest players in the world on their team, but they also, as 5 people, will talk with each other, will constantly communicate, will constantly get better, and just focus on improving all 5 players. Focusing how they talk, focusing how they act and react. Now, that might not sound that impressive, but you have to realize they'll spend hours a day talking about the game. They love the game. And that's why they'll do that, just because they care so much and they want to get better. Now, think about North American teams. How often do you see teams scrimming? Obviously, before Worlds, not a lot of scrims going on, or streams going on. But still, the focus is, for the most part, if you play, you will get better. This is not the case anymore. This is no longer how it works. You can play, you can get better, you can be a great player, but you need to have your team backing you up in almost every regard. You need to know how to take advantage of every situation, how to approach almost every strategy, and if you don't know how to approach every strategy, which you cannot because new strategies are being developed all the time, you need to know how to react to them. And that's just something that the teams will need to work on. Also, emotions. The players went on tilt, hardcore. This was, I'd say, most obvious with Dignitas. So they lost their first game against CLGU, and watching them play against Saigon Jokers, I was at the event, I could see the player cams throughout the tournament, they all just looked uncomfortable. And it was just such a dramatic shift. They went from this, not necessarily casual looking team, but they looked like they were happy to be where they are, where everyone just looked locked up and scared. And this really happened to every team for North America. And that's because, as the teams were playing, they realized they weren't going to win. They realized that the other team was, as a whole, playing so much better. And that's where it gets scary. That's where it gets really intimidating. When you realize that you're playing against better people and you don't know how to react. And that's just something that the teams are going to have to work on. Now, do I think North America can come back? Hell yeah. Hell yeah, we'll kick ass. As of this very second, the teams in North America might even be better than they were last week. I would be surprised if they weren't. I would be surprised if they weren't. But as of those moments, it really hit them hard. They were scared. Now, there's a few other reasonings I've heard, and I'll call them excuses as to why North America didn't do so hot. One, the competition in North America wasn't that good. The top 3 teams did not have enough teams to play against that were of their caliber and the world caliber to really compete. Well, this not really the truth. Korean teams have not been around all that long. This game's relatively new in Korea. CLGU and Moscow 5 have a really big skill gap over in Europe, yet they are incredibly strong. SK is a bit farther behind, but compared to CLGU and Moscow 5, SK's been a newer team. They've also had, I'd say, less focus. They were very focused for regionals, and they did very well. That was actually the result of hours and hours of training and practice. They completely obliterated CLGU, but overall SK did not practice super hard this tournament. They had about 2 months to practice, and they did practice quite a bit, but they still took vacations. At campus party, they didn't have all 5 players. They weren't completely focused, and the results are they did not do too hot. So there's that. There's just, maybe this was a fluke. It's hard to be a fluke when every team doesn't do well. There's the cheating aspect. This is arguably a fairly big impact. We'll see what happens from Riot's response. But it would have only been the TSM and the Zubu Frost game. And Game 2, where TSM was actually ahead very early, they still did not do well in the end. They still had control, lost it very quickly, and the game very quickly went to Zubu Frost. So the teams know very well that they did not do well, but they will get better. They will get smarter. I think most of the teams need a coach just to go ahead and whip an attitude to the teams and just say, you guys need to focus on this game as if it's a career. You guys need to go ahead and focus on this game and say, well, let's talk about how we can get better as a team. Let's talk about how we can improve. Because seriously, talking will go so far. Okay, what some of the teams I've talked about, Zubu Blaze, before every team fight, their top laner and jungler will ask, "What do we do in the team fight?" And that is just like, saying how fluid the game is, where the top laner and jungler will have to adjust every fight. But, that's how big they are in communication. North America, I've never seen that happen. I've seen some people make calls like, do blank in the fight, but it's never consistent. Moscow 5, they will constantly talk about how they can improve, and you will see the results in smaller tournaments, especially online stuff. So Moscow 5 doesn't do that well online, because chances are they're experimenting for LAN. And, well, it's been a relatively long talk about why North America, it's not too hot. But we will improve, for sure. I have no doubt the players will get better, the players will get stronger, beefier, muskier. But as of right now, NA, we're not doing good. I'd say good a few months. I'll give it till season 3 starts, and let's see how North America's doing. Let's see how the attitudes shifted. With the players getting income and having a reliable source of money, just to say, hey, here's how we can live, the focus will dramatically shift, I feel. But let's see that when it happens. As of right now, this has been a talk about why North America has been getting its butt kicked at Worlds, and adios, folks.